to keep this kind of simple and scrappy because I think this is a really important part of my journey that I want to document. And there's a lot of interesting things happening right now with me. One, I am an avid PC builder on the side. Like, I've built a number of computers, and this one that I'm working on now, I call it Storm. It's being upgraded iteratively so that it can have the capacity to virtually produce environments. So I just swapped out my old GTX 3070 card for a GTX 3090 Ti, and some of that might sound like techno babble depending on how deep you are in the game, but I need something with a high enough amount of VRAM and graphics processing just to be future proof and ready for virtual production. So I am a little uneasy though. Um, as I'm making this pivot into virtual production, while I'm impressed with how cheap the investment is to get into an industry where there's a lot of opportunity, I think it's not super cheap. And I did budget for this, and I do think I have the money necessary to survive these investments that I'm making right now, but only for about 5 or 6 months operating at the current capacity that I operate in. So once I get all this equipment, I kind of have to have a fire under my butt to keep moving, to keep things going. And there's a few other things that I'm planning on purchasing. So I have a bunch of cameras. I'm a big camera nerd. This is a Sony A7 IV, and I'm filming this on my Sony A7S III, but I'm gonna get a Sony oh no, a Blackmagic 4.6K Ursa Mini G2. It's a cinema camera, and I need a cinema camera with SDI output so that I can give the computer and my capture card, which is a Blackmagic capture card, all the information it needs to do Genlock, so the gyroscopic camera metadata that's necessary to pull that off. So it's been interesting learning about all these things, but I think I still feel very new and green, and I'm excited to actually get hands on with the stuff and start making things. I think I've watched a ton of YouTube videos about all these kind of things, but I'm not 100% sure how all of them work because I haven't had that hands on experience yet. But it's my prediction that once I get my hands on this tech, I'm gonna go crazy with it because what's so cool about me what's so cool to me about virtual production is this idea that I don't know, like all of this innovative technology to place yourself in another world is at your fingertips, and to be able to, with just a little bit of technical know-how, create things that other people wouldn't just because they don't have the patience or the interest or the passion, that excites me. I think for a long time creatively, I've felt a little stifled because I quite frankly am not excited to create vertical content on platforms like TikTok, where I'm just, talking at a camera, um, and just trying to make silly dances. And of course, there's some educational, high quality content on there. I'm not going to knock it, but I have always been inspired by making high quality stuff that others couldn't make and pushing the limits of what's possible. And so this Blackmagic, not only does it shoot 4.6K, but it's got 15 stops of dynamic range. So I'll have a lot of colors to play with, and I'll probably end up messing with DaVinci Resolve, which is Blackmagic's video editing software. So it should be interesting. I think another thing I'm thinking about now for the past couple of years is I think I really, I live in Los Angeles now, and being in LA, it's kind of taken me away from who I truly am. I think um, just being entertainment adjacent, this world that I'm living in, is not really aligned with I think what my passion is or even how I identify myself. right? Like I'm a nerd's nerd all the way, and I just don't feel like it's been nurtured without a lot of intentionality behind finding the right people. So what I'll now have to do is dive deep into this stuff. And what's been cool is as I've dived deeper into it, I've found out that Los Angeles is the capital for virtual production. It seems like it, at least. There's like a bunch of studios out here. There's a bunch of people out here that are interested, and I have some optimistic conversations with folks about working with them and using their spaces here and stuff like that. Um, but I still want to have control over my own virtual production studio space, and so the quickest way to do that is to build one in my house. And so I have this 13-foot green screen and a bunch of other tech that I'm about to bring into this space, and it's barely gonna fit. But I know the type of person I am. When I first moved to New York 5 years ago in 2017, um, I did not have a bed for a year because I built out a studio space in my spot. So I don't think that that's the healthiest thing to do mentally. I think it's not necessarily the best thing for your work life balance. But I know that when I want to make something happen, I go into that place and I feel that burst of energy again, and I feel ruthless. I feel like I have to do this. So I think this is a huge path to scaling my efforts to create educational content that actually inspires me to want to keep creating. Doing stuff that's high quality, that, movie quality even, but, on a much lower budget. And hopefully, building towards doing bigger budget stuff by showing people what's possible with what I do at a small scale. So, yeah, I'm talking myself up, but these are some big investments, bigger investments than I've ever made in my business and myself. I already made a bunch of huge investments. Just got a car out here in January. Um, so yeah, I'm hoping that it all pays off. But I think this part of the journey is something that I didn't document as much in New York, and I wish I had documented it because I've been an entrepreneur now for almost 6 years, and you learn a thing or two, being around the block for as long as that. But I just wish that some of those early moments of me being a spunky young kid are crystallized. And so I feel back in that zone again, and I want to make sure that, someone that may or may not think that they can do it is inspired by this too. So I don't know what I'm doing. I'm excited about virtual production. We'll see where it goes.